Alrighty, pop that will.
Well has been popped. I popped it right there.
Right. Back up
Immediate
for the
jump.
Back
right.
right.
Front left. Jump.
Well's gone.
Back right.
Chieftain
Front
moment.
left.
Uru's gone.
Don't know those.
Alright,
Did
Sneak,
not wanna-
time to really kill this guy.
So, I've made a build for Titan DPS. I've made a build for Hunter DPS. Both of those did very well, so I feel like it's only natural that we do a DPS build video for Warlocks. Now, as you saw from the opening clip, this build can cook. But I didn't want to just make a Warlock DPS build where I just said, hey, put on Microcosm and Well, or hey, use Euphony, although I did make a Euphony video already, so there's that. So let's just get straight into the build. First up, what super are we using? We are running a Prismatic Warlock on Nova Bomb Cataclysm. Now, some of you may already known, but Nova Bomb got a massive glow up thanks to the exotic class items being in the game, and you being able to stack Star Eater scales on your class item in order to make Nova Bomb stronger. How much stronger? Well, you can clear a mill on some bosses in the game, so it's pretty strong. Now, usually I go into abilities next, but this time around I'm going to start with the aspects. Our first aspect is going to be Feed the Void. This will play into our grenade, but essentially it's Devour. Devour is one of the dumbest and strongest things in this game, and why wouldn't you want to have that? Our second aspect is going to be Helion, because it is literally just free damage on any enemy that you can reach. Most bosses in the game are reachable. And then it also Scorches on top, because why wouldn't you want some extra damage? Next, we're heading into our abilities. First, instead of a Rift, we have Phoenix Dive. Phoenix Dive is just more convenient. You can do it while you're in the air, maybe in a pinch where you're about to die. You just crash to the ground, you do Cure, you heal yourself, and also it activates our Helion aspect. For our jump, doesn't matter, do whatever you want. In our melee, we went with Arcane Needle. There's two reasons for this. Number one is Unraveling, which is, again, just some extra bonus damage. And number two, this gives us 3 melee slots. Additionally, you can also use Arcane Needle as a Darkness ability to feed your meter for a Transcendence to fill it up quicker if you need to. And lastly, the Grenade. As I alluded to earlier with Feed the Void, I picked a Void Grenade, in this case, Vortex Grenade, to proc Devour easily for free. Additionally, while we're on the subject of grenades, I do want to note that the Freezing Singularity grenade for Prismatic Warlock also does suppression, slow/freeze. Now, the main key part here is going to be the slow and freezing aspect, as it'll proc on 2 different fragments that we have, which we'll get into in a second. For our fragments, going left to right, we have 5 fragments. The first one is Facet of Grace. Defeating targets with kinetic weapons grants you bonus transcendent energy. Essentially, this is just used as a filler to get our light and dark energy faster for Prismatic. Now, I will say, if you don't think you need this, then I would swap this out for a different one called Facet of Protection, which essentially says if you're surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, which is just more DR on top of 100 resilience. Our next fragment is going to be Facet of Dawn. Powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant, and also powered melee final blows make you and your nearby allies radiant. So this is just here to give you free radiance if you're not already in a well of radiance. I hate saying those two things back to back, but this could essentially be swapped out for something else if you think you're always going to have a well with you. Our third fragment, on the other hand, is an absolute must-have and should not be taken off at all. That is Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. I'll explain in a second why this is so important when I'm going over the rotation of this damage phase, but for now, just know that you have to have this on or you're throwing. Number 4 is going to be Facet of Ruin. This is specifically here just for the shatter damage, and or if you have a big ignition going off on a boss near a bunch of enemies, then they'll also explode as well. But that essentially is what Facet of Ruin does. And lastly is Facet of Command. Freezing or suppressing a target reloads your equipped weapons and increases blah 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 blah. We don't care about that. We care about reloading our equipped weapon. Before talking about the rotation, I want to talk about the weapons first. So, as you've already seen on screen, our weapon of choice in our energy slot is going to be Still Hunt, because Still Hunt is still busted, and it has not been nerfed, and won't be nerfed until the middle of August, I believe. So until then, Still Hunt is still going to be your best choice to go into a slot that is not your heavy slot. Then on our heavy, for me particularly, in most of these clips, I'm going to be using a Cope GL. What is this Cope GL? It is Marcilian C, a weapon that was/is a world drop and is mainly available through that or playing the lottery at Banshee. The role specifically I'm going to show you on screen is going to be a role of Envious Assassin and Cascade Point. Now at this point, I'm sure some of you are asking, but Sneak, I don't have that, my RNG sucks. Is there anything else I can use instead of it? The answer is yes, and I'm sure I'll throw in some clips of using other weapons, but essentially it comes down to, if you have this, use this. If you don't, you have other options, such as, probably the most notable one is Apex Predator. Apex is still one of the best rockets in the game and is by far the most obtainable to get the God roll, as it's available in the Last Wish raid, which, with power creep these days, is not that difficult to do, if I'm being completely honest. It's craftable, so you can guarantee obtain it after X amount of weeks of raiding through Hawthorne's guaranteed red border system, or just getting a random red border while you're in the raid as well. Also, you can use deep side harmonizers if you have to as well. Now, there are other weapon options out there as well. For example, you could use Wendigo, which can roll autoloading and Cascade, I believe, but the problem is it's arc instead of solar, so it doesn't synergize with Still Hunt and the surges in your boots. Same thing with Cataphract. It can roll Envious and Cascade Point just like Marcilian can, but it's Strand, so it has the same problem as Wendigo. Basically, the core idea is if you can match Solar, then go with Solar. That's your best bet, because then your surges are going to be aligned. If not, do the best that you can. So you can do like Cold Comfort, Edge Transit, Wendigo, Cataphract, any other rocket, basically, as long as you have good perks on it, and maybe you want to throw in one surge to that particular heavy, and then 2 solar surges for your Still Hunt, you should be fine. Now, as for the rotation, first I'll just explain a full rotation, then I'll go into the nitty-gritty of why I chose to do this order. So, initially, you're going to start with have a full Prismatic meter, have full feast stacks for your class item with Starter Scales, and then have your GL with Envious procced to max, if you're running an Envious GL, that is. Once you have that, then you can go into a damage phase. As a damage phase is about to start, you're going to want to pop Still Hunt, then pop Prismatic. After that, you use your class ability, which in this case is Phoenix Dive, to get Helion to proc, assuming you're near a boss that can reach it. After that, you start with your melee, then your grenade, then your Nova Bomb, in that order specifically. After that, you go back to your Still Hunt, which still has Cade's Retribution active. It's a timer, it doesn't go away. And then you shoot your Cade shots. You can do either 2 shots to just proc Cascade and then switch to your GL, or you can do like the first 3 shots to get all of the Cade shots off and then switch to your GL. Either way, you're going to switch to the GL as your secondary and then pop off with the Cascade Point GLs. Once those are out, you go back to your Still Hunt and then repeat the process. Then go back to your GL, do that again. And if you need to reload the GL, if you shot too many shots or whatever, just do that. Go back to Still Hunt, 2 more shots, go to GL, pop the GL off once again, and by this point, either the boss is dead or the timer has run out for the damage phase. Now let me explain why I did these things in this order. Starting at the top, Cade's Retribution, and then going into Prismatic. This is a double whammy. Number 1, when you do Cade's Retribution and then pop Prismatic back to back, you cancel the Cade's animation, which is a bit sluggish and slow, and go straight into your Prismatic animation, which technically saves you time and you get into damage faster, if that makes sense. The second reason why you do this is when you're in Transcendence, you actually gain a buff to your weapon damage by 5%. Now, most people don't know this because it's hidden behind a wall of text, but if you go to your Transcendence in your subclass menu, it says you gain increased ability regen, increased weapon damage, and damage resistance against combatants. In this case, the weapon damage buff is 5%. So, I mean, 5% over an entire damage phase does add up to quite a bit. Then we have our Melee, Grenade, and Nova Bomb. The reason for this order is pretty simple. If you do Grenade and then Melee, it feels like there's a delay between the two. If you do Melee and then Grenade, it feels like there's no delay between the two. So you start off with Melee and Grenade, and then finish off with Nova Bomb. Now, the more important reason why you finish off with Nova Bomb in this order is because Arcane Needle is a Darkness debuff that will do Unraveling, and then on top of that, we also have our Grenade, which will do Freeze and Slow, so that's also a Darkness debuff, but these two will proc 2 fragments that we have that we listed earlier. Facet of Command will proc off the Slow/Freeze, and then Facet of Courage will proc off the Arcane Needle or the Grenade. It doesn't matter which one. The point is, the Nova Bomb will do more damage once a Darkness debuff is on the boss, so on top of already being juiced from the Starter Scales, our Nova Bomb just does even more damage on top of that. Now we go back to our weapons. So this will go one of 2 ways. If you're using a Cascade GL, you want to go and shoot 2 Still Hunt shots with your Cade's Retribution, and then go to your GL and shoot the Cascade shots. Then go back, shoot 2 more shots, go back to your GL, get your Cascade shots, go back to your Still Hunt, get the last 2 shots, and then finally finish off on the GL. If you want to incorporate Fast Start of Command somewhere in there and get fancy with it, you can. That's totally up to you. Now, if you're using a rocket, then it's a little more simple and less swapping. So in this example, it's Apex Predator with Reconstruction and Explosive Light. You're going to pop off with your Still Hunt shots, use all of them, reload the weapon, and then switch to your rocket. In this case, you want to go Apex Shot, then Melee Grenade, and your second Apex Shot, then go back to Still Hunt, get your shot off to get your Cade's Retribution to max again, and then use that and repeat the same process that you just did until the damage phase is over or the boss is dead. And that's it for the breakdown. If you think you have a better setup or rotation, feel free to comment below, but we're moving on from that now, and we're going to go into mods. As for actual armor mods, I'm not going to name all of them right here. I'm going to name some key ones, but if you do want to see all of them, or the entire build for that matter, I will put that down in the description below for anybody that wants to try that. For key armor mods, though, in your helmet, you want to have a Siphon mod on as you're getting your Prismatic with whatever weapon you're using in your kinetic slot, whether it's actually kinetic, strand, or stasis. You want to also get orbs for your fee stacks on your class item because, again, Star Eater scales, so make sure you have a Siphon mod to match that. In your gloves, for me, it's pretty straightforward. I'm using solar, so I have solar loaders on, but if you're using a combination because you don't have a solar heavy, then do accordingly. And then in your boots, you want to have triple solar surge on, unless, again, you're doing a mixed split, in which case, maybe try a 2-for-1 combo, like 2 solar and then 1 void art, strand, whatever. And then finally, in your class item, just to reiterate, this is the exotic class item, Solipsism. I think it's the first time I've ever said that name for the class item. But anyway, all you need, perk-wise, is Star Eaters. That's it. You don't need a perfect 10 out of 10 god roll. Obviously, you need to get a little lucky, but it's better than getting double perk lucky, right? And that is the build. I'm pretty happy with it overall, getting like 4+ mil on solo damage on bosses, and then 6+ mil on bosses like the Witness is pretty damn good overall. Obviously, it's not going to beat Celestial Nighthawk Hunters with their wumbo-sized Still Hunt, but for a Warlock, pretty damn good, I'd say at least. And that's a wrap on the Warlock DPS build. Let me know what you guys think. In the meantime, if you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to comment, you can leave CopeGL as the comment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.